Are they 10-minute episodes?
Yeah, Adventure Time's a 10-minute episode.
Why the fuck are there episodes an hour and a half, some of them?
Well, the lore of Adventure Time does get pretty involved. And they're also doing
10 minutes?
Yeah, it really does.
For fuck's sake, what are we doing?
Secret agent man, secret agent man. They've given you a number and taken away your name.
Welcome back to IntoTheRealWorld.com. This is Secret Agent Men, a podcast looking at Mission Impossible, Bourne and Bond. This is episode 12, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. My name is Matt Waters. I'm joined, as always, for this endeavour, the man with the spreadsheets, Ben Phillips. Ben, how are you? We're both on a day off and we're choosing to do our, non-paid job in that day off.
We are.
How are you?
I'm good. I've watched, 8 movies in between watching the movie we're discussing today.
I haven't. But, we're all doing stuff. Speaking of doing stuff and this podcast, obviously everyone else will have already known this before we're saying it, but No Time to Die has been delayed because of the coronavirus. This podcast was timed to release in time for us to see No Time to Die and then have that be our final episode. That's obviously no longer going to be possible. It's coming out in November, and Ben and I will decide when we do that episode. But yes, that now means this podcast, for now, will finish with Fallout. That time.
Yes.
Yeah, well, if it's anything like Rogue Nation, I'm sad about that.
Well, you are a wrong-headed man. It feels like all we've done is fight about things this week.
All we've done is fight about Mission Impossible, our entire show.
And Jojo Rabbit, we thought about this week, and we thought about The Newsroom.
Jojo Rabbit's great. I'm not saying it's the best film of the year, but, you're a monster if you don't think it's at least really good. Speaking of things that aren't really good, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation.
Oh, fuck you.
I just think it's incredibly unoriginal, and it's just biting everything else, and it's kind of a pointless film.
I think everything it does, it kind of achieves very well. And no, I will agree, it's not like the most original movie in the world. It definitely is pulling an awful lot from other versions of this. I just think it's super well accomplished and just kind of a lot of fun, and it's kind of the first movie that feels like all the elements are kind of working in conjunction with each other to lead to the end. And because even in the movies where I think Christ Protocol's great and I think Mission Impossible 3 is great, but they all have elements in them that kind of are letting the side down, whereas this movie I'm like, no, there's nothing in this movie apart from a moment where they rely too much on CG rather than in-camera stunt work, which is what Mission Impossible's so well known for, where I'm like, I changed the conceit of that to fix it. It's
consistent, and it's a well-done photocopy. But, yeah, I kind of feel this and Quantum of Solace are two incomplete movies that if they merged would work, because Quantum of Solace, everything other than the big stunt work is actually pretty decent, and then the stunts are somehow really boring, despite if you describe them out loud they sound like they should be exciting. And I think the stunts here are really exciting, and the stuff happening in between them is pretty boring. And if I could merge those two movies, it would be good. But as is, I think this is just a bit of a shallow, hollow shell of a movie. But
God, you're going to be so excited when I tell you that Fallout is a direct sequel to this as well.
I know it is, and I wish I didn't Google one of the actors' filmographies to learn that they'll be back in Fallout.
But he's got a great beard.
Okay, good.
He's got a great beard.
Good. Fallout better be a lot better than this, is all I'm going to say. Given the amount of hype you, Mike, and however many other people have given Fallout, if this is your god, if this your king, as it were.
I mean, Gerald is there to help, so.
Good old Gerald. So, released July 2015, so 4 years since Ghost Protocol. A surprisingly long gap between all of the Mission Impossible films.
They start to contract now that Chris McQuarrie is, the lead person on them. And obviously, Chris McQuarrie is now, the go-to guy for Tom Cruise. Because in between Ghost Protocol and this, they've done Jack Reacher, Edge of Tomorrow together.
Yes, just to take from my notes. Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Yeah, Jack Reacher Never Go Back isn't great, but Jack Reacher 1...
Yeah, I like
good
that.
Solid work.
I feel almost embarrassed to volunteer that information unless someone else says it first. But I think it's
a movie.
Good.
It's a movie in which Werner Herzog plays the lead villain. What's not to love?
And he bit his fingers off. Let's go watch Jack Reacher. future. It was actually going to release later in the year, but they brought it forward to avoid Spectre and Star Wars. Cowards. Probably smart. Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah. And it restores Mission Impossible to its summer movie status after a brief foray into the winter time. But yeah, as you said, written and directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who wrote The Usual Suspects and Valkyrie, which, as you said, is how he met Tom Cruise. They'd done Edge of Tomorrow by now as well. Who would go on to do The Mummy and Top Gun Maverick. So I am not entirely convinced this dude is a really good writer, but we'll see.
I think what happens is the movies where like he isn't the only screenwriter kind of lose that he knows how to write for Tom Cruise really well.
Are you saying Tom Cruise is good in The Mummy and the rest of the movie's bad? I haven't seen it. You can tell me.
No. I'm saying that like The Mummy, the list of screenwriters on The Mummy is in like so it's story by John Spates, who did Prometheus.
Okay.
Alex Kurtzman, Jenny Lumet, the daughter of Sidney Lumet, who wrote Rachel Getting Married, which is a fantastic movie. David Cope did the screenplay, who has the name has come up. Chris McQuarrie, and then Dylan Kurtzman. So there's 6 credited screenwriters in that movie, none of whom are Anne's.
Yeah.
But compared to like McQuarrie writing, he is co-screenwriter on this movie with Drew Pearce, or Drew Pearce did the story. Mm-hmm. But like then Mission Impossible Fallout, he's the solo screenwriter. And I think it's the same for 7 and 8. I think Maverick, he's one of like a couple of screenwriters, so we'll see how that one works out.
There's no way Top Gun Maverick is going to be good, right? There's no way.
It's got one of your boys in it.
Which one?
Miles Teller.
Of course. I'll follow you anywhere, Miles. Even to bad places. This movie is 2 hours and 11 minutes long, so 2 minutes shorter than the far too long Ghost Protocol. Budget $150 million, so only a tiny bump of $5 million over Ghost Protocol, and it grossed $683 million, so $12 million less. Apparently Christmas is a bigger market than summer. They tell me that summer movies don't make money, but I find that ridiculous, personally.
It's because there's so many movies in that time frame that like you start to get a little bit of fatigue, especially when you're releasing at the tail end of the period, or there's something coming out in 2 weeks that people are more excited for,
and you're splitting your interest and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Brad Bird was asked to come back but declined to go make Tomorrowland.
Delightfully solid movie that is also his worst movie.
And Lindelof's best.
Although I might be seeing The Hunt tonight, so who knows?
Who knows? A movie they cancelled the release of, which is always a good sign. Cruise asked for McQuarrie after working with him on Valkyrie and Jack Reacher and whatnot. Drew Pearce signed on to write the script. He keeps a story credit, but he was replaced by Will Staples after like 6 months or a year or something. And then McQuarrie ended up just writing the whole thing himself, but Drew Pearce maintains a credit. And once again, they had no script when they started filming, and it was just stunts. They really need to stop doing this. I mean, I guess it's paying off for them, but like, this is a stressful way to make movies.
I think the most intriguing thing about that is the way this movie is structured. The biggest stunt, the one that they're basing the entire trailer around, is in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. And the water one, when they filmed it, they didn't know what he was stealing. They were like, we'll figure that out later. And it's like, you can kind of tell.
That's my least favourite section of the movie, is the underwater stretch.
The bit where they lie. The stuntman said Tom Cruise held his breath for 6 minutes. I call fucking bullshit. Paula Patton and Maggie Q were both asked to come back, but they couldn't because of scheduling conflicts. That would have been cool. Jessica Chastain turned down her second Tom Cruise movie after Oblivion due to the time required to make it, or she's just ducking Tom Cruise. Benedict Cumberbatch was looked at for the villain, but they kept all of the Sherlock rip-offs. The filming was paused to allow them to redo the ending. Again, I think you can kind of tell. Disney allegedly agreed not to promote Rogue One until after Rogue Nation released, which... why? Like, how stupid do movie execs think people are?
Incredibly.
It's absolutely bizarre. Alright, our agent is Ethan Hunt. Tom Cruise is back. It's more of the same. He's acquired more superhuman abilities. He is still completely insane.
I mean, this has got my favourite reveal of, like, a superhuman ability.
Yeah.
In the entire franchise. It's when he goes, like, I remembered all the codes. I now have photographic memory.
I have $2 billion at my, not fingertips, but, yeah.
In my brain.
In my brain. More of the doubts are creeping in about some of the crazy things he does, which I still appreciate. He's become almost mythic in that people monologue about him while he's in the room. And it's a bit weird. He's also being... would you say this is the most he's been criticised to his face by his friends?
Yes, I think that's the thing. Is like this is the movie that starts to kind of reckon with the legacy of the franchise, which is another thing that I appreciate Chris McQuarrie's doing. In that, like the subplot of this movie is going like the IMF are kind of dumb. Mm-hmm. Like stop the IMF, please. Even if obviously the movie has to be on the side of the IMF and say like they do a good job at what they do.
Well, yes, that is literally the plot. Following Ghost Protocol, the IMF is disbanded on orders of some shadowy committee. And Ethan spends 18 months trying to prove the existence of the Syndicate and finds himself targeted by the CIA. And spoilers, the Syndicate do exist. And he's on the run from everyone. So, yeah. Let's do it then, I guess. In Minsk, Ethan boards a plane while it's taking off to prevent something that is at this moment unclear, but they will tell you in a minute, is, trying to transport nerve gas to somewhere in the Middle East. But they're just like, yeah, here's a plane, he's going to fucking climb on it while it's getting off the ground, which is banana sandwiches. Brandt is now a quarterback, basically. Like he's like the man in the chair directing them all. I guess that's a decent use for him, although they very clearly set him up as the second field agent in Ghost Protocol. But
and it's why you don't really miss him in Fallout as well.
Is there an explanation of where he is, or is
no? I don't think he's even mentioned.
Brilliant. That's how I like my Jeremy Renner removals to happen. Jason Bourne, I assume, is not going to mention Aaron Cross. Fallout is not going to mention Brandt. Luther and Benji are providing tech support now. That's nice.
Although Luther is half a world away.
Yeah, Luther is like remote tech support, and Benji is in the field doing gadget shit. Wearing a ghillie suit here, and just watching the plane as they all freak out. And then Ethan just emerges from seemingly nowhere to do an insane thing.
I love the entire setup of this, which is that they're all talking to each other, trying to figure out what they're doing. Brandt is just being bemused by everything. No one knows where Ethan is. Benji's hacking into the plane, but can't because it's
an unhackable plane.
It's an unhackable plane. And then Ethan just emerges and jumps onto the side of the plane. It's just fun.
It's a fun stunt, like opening the wrong door, and then he goes in the right door, but the wrong door is still open, so he almost just bounces straight out the back again. That's pretty fun.
Oh, it's so good.
And then that guard just showing up, and he's like, hello, just flies out the back with the parachute.
And then the opening credits start, and you get the theme song, and...
Yeah, it's more of the straight up using the footage approach from MI1, rather than... It was like quite stylized in Ghost Protocol, where it was like, this is the footage, but we've like vignetted it in some way where you can't quite tell what's going on. Whereas this is like, here's just some straight up clips, but we've hopefully edited them together fast enough where you can't see the twists coming. Or the reveals, sorry. Nothing is a twist. So in London, Ethan's briefing, his standard every movie, here's how you get your mission, is hijacked by the Syndicate, which is pretty cool. And he is taken prisoner, but he escapes with the help of a lady who will reveal herself later. He calls in requesting aid, but Brandt tells him the IMF has been disbanded. All operations handed over to the CIA, who want to capture him. This wanky music conversation he has.
I mean, it's all code.
From Tom Cruise? Yes, but they chose the words they chose.
Yes, but it's all code.
Yes.
And like it's why it's got this kind of like weird clip sense where like nothing they're saying makes sense to each other.
Yes.
It's just they're saying a phrase and then they're responding to a phrase. I just want to point out that the Wikipedia article for Mission Impossible Rogue Nation has a hyperlinked definition of what a record shop is.
Oh, forget how stupid movie execs think people are. How stupid does Wikipedia think people are? I guess it's literally a resource for what is everything. But if you're going to do that, why not hyperlink every word in the goddamn article?
I'm also like, it's one of those things where like there's more egregious ones in Fallout, but like going into a location that I'm pretty sure isn't the same location that it is in London. And we will talk a lot about that in Fallout, where
I like that Solomon is just sitting in the background in this scene if you look for him. That's quite fun. And this agent is all, it's really you? You can't have done all the things they said, which is kind of fun. And I do like the vinyl player. Or it's one of these old-fashioned listening booths that I have not seen in a fucking anywhere in a long time.
Well, when we worked at our retail establishment, they realised these kind of things are stupid because people are bad and we'll break them for fun.
Yeah, they had listening posts when I started, but those went away like immediately. But the whole like booth thing is real dumb. That's just wasting space. Yeah, that's all good. One of 3 women in the movie, this agent. That's kind of cool. Yeah, so they confirm that they were extracting terrorist weapons that were en route to Damascus. And I do think that like in the middle of the briefing, it being revealed that it's the Syndicate talking to him, that's pretty fun. And I kind of wish there was more of this. Like, it's a fun little... Like, he starts to catch on, like, a sentence before they say anything. He's very like, huh? and then it's like, you should leave us alone. I can't even remember how it's phrased, but
if you come after us, you will die.
Yes,
kind of.
yes. And then they gas him, and ostensibly having Ethan die while McQuarrie's director card is on the screen is a pretty fucking bold move. But instead they torture him. Lot of Ethan fighting big European beefcakes in this movie. We have the Bone Doctor, who is a person allegedly, and shirtless Tom Cruise persists for unknown reasons. Like, the older he gets, the more he wants to be topless for some reason.
To be fair, his body is less weirdly shaped than it was in Ghost Protocol.
I guess.
He doesn't look like he starved himself for...
True.
For
he just got out of prison in the movie.
I know!
Maybe he's committing to the role.
He looked really bad.
Ilsa helps him escape in front of everyone, but then later has to pretend that he did it himself.
No, so she knocks out the Bone Doctor.
Uh-huh. And who's she going to say did that?
Ethan knocks out the Bone Doctor because he kicks him across the room and he hits his head. Then they both kill every other agent in the room.
Okay.
So the only one who was alive still is the Bone Doctor, but the Bone Doctor just thinks that Ethan knocked him out.
I do like that Ilsa has a higher body count than him in this movie. That's kind of fun. Yeah, he does this weird
She doesn't sleep with that many people.
Oh, dear. His weird little gymnastic escape over the top of that pole is kind of fun. And off he goes, and it's all a little bit confusing until you find out who Ilsa actually is. And
I think maybe that's my issue, is that I go into this knowing who Ilsa is.
Whereas I had hazy memories of 3 and Ghost Protocol. I had not seen any of this. So I spent the first hour being like, there's like 3 or 4 different sides here, and I don't know why anyone is doing anything. And they do ultimately explain it all, but I was kind of in the dark for a long time. And I know a lot of movies want you to be in the dark, but there are levels of in the dark that I think are wise to be for an audience. And
that's the thing, is I think from this point they then go into the most involved and constructed action sequence in the movie, where you literally only know who 2 of the people are.
Yeah,
really, and what they're doing, what their intent is doing in the scene.
Yes, but first, Alec Baldwin is testifying against Jeremy Renner in a little courtroom, and leaning heavily into the previous films, with Brandt pointing out the sort of like net positives they've had, despite all the damage they've caused and things they've done that are not quite right.
I just adore that Brandt's default is like, well, since Tom Wilkinson got shot last movie, I can't tell you anything because
I can't say anything without the senator here. So
no, without the IMF secretary.
The secretary, I can't say anything without the secretary. That was it.
It's just a little fun thing where it's just like, until you give me a new boss, I can't tell you anything that goes on.
And Alec Baldwin very much about to lean into that scene in The Departed where he gets very frustrated with the tech boy. He's like, you fucking come here. Alec Baldwin's here, neither good nor bad, I would say. Kind of just, here's an Alec Baldwin role. I think he's trying that hard.
He's better utilised in the next movie.
Oh, of course
he's back. This movie is very much like, he is the impediment to the heroes doing what they want to do, in the same way that like Lawrence Fishburne has been, and like they've done this role before. It's very much a stock trope now for Mission Impossible. Where would you rank him in terms of like all the heads of the IMF that we've seen so far?
Well, obviously the tops is Anthony Hopkins with his just flagrant sexism. No, he's obviously the bottom. Fishburne was really good. Kittredge was good. Who was it last time? Oh, Wilkinson.
Last time, Tom Wilkinson, uncredited.
Yeah, barely remember his. But I guess Fishburne would be top for me.
Yeah, I mean, Fishburne.
And I would say Fishburne was like really going for it, and Alec Baldwin is. I don't want to say he's sleepwalking through this, but I don't think he's like going full guns blazing. And maybe he will next time if his role is bigger, but I don't know. So he will be the only person to reprise. I guess he's not technically.
Well, Kittredge is coming back, although I don't think Kittredge was ever officially the head of the IMF.
Maybe. Anyway, these are semantics for another time. So 6 months later, the CIA's search for Ethan continues. Benji is being grilled on a weekly basis, but won't give Ethan up. And the 2 meet at an opera in Vienna on the trail of the mystery man that murdered that lady in the record store. And they fail to prevent the assassination of an Austrian chancellor. So... yeah. The CIA raid Cuba, but Ethan is in Paris. That's fun. Tom Cruise can't grow a good beard, but we knew this already from The Last Samurai. He remains committed to his shirtlessness. He's constantly working out to show that he's either in prison or on... Those are the things. If you're on the run, or you're in prison, or you're on sort of self-imposed prison, because you can't just be spotted everywhere, you just got to work out constantly. I like Brandt's, like, smirk when they raid the place and he's not there, but then there is that wall of, like, look, this is everything I've been looking into for the Syndicate. I'm not crazy, I promise. But maybe he is. Benji's shitty little life as a data analyst at the CIA, playing Halo 5, which wasn't even out yet, I don't think, when this was released. I guess they hooked them up with a copy, or it's a demo or something. But
yeah, I mean, it's just one of those. I don't even think it's the final box art for the game, is it? It's just,
I don't know. Yeah,
like a little bit of a plug where it's like, oh look, he's playing this, and it feels like Microsoft are the only ones that do that kind of weird product placement where it's just like, look, the characters in the movie are playing the game that you want to play this year.
Yeah, true. And Ilsa definitely uses a Surface tablet as well. So product placement, baby.
I mean, it's not as bad as like what the interview with Ryan Johnson where he's like, only heroes are allowed to use
iPhones.
Or villains aren't allowed to use iPhones.
Brilliant. I like how he's potentially just given away so many. And I guess the solution is nobody should use them.
Or cover up the like Apple logo, I guess.
Yeah. We get more of Ethan's perfect drawing skills.
Can we jump ahead to this bit? So, later on in the movie...
Oh, yeah, he's drawn two people. And because one of them is in slightly better focus, they are like, oh, he trusts her and he doesn't trust this person.
But then Luther's just like, I can't find this guy based on this drawing. I can find this person based on this drawing because he's drawn her better.
He's drawn her slightly better.
And then they're just like... How is this impossible? Because, like, for most profiles, it is impossible, but not for me, Luther Stickwell.
Yeah.
And then, like, 2 seconds later, he's found out who the person is.
And Brandt has lost his photographic facial recognition brain in between movies, because that was a large crux of the last one, is he could recognise someone based on Ethan's drawing, and the CCTV thing wasn't working, so he was having to identify people, and, like, now he just doesn't know who anyone is. Like, fuck off.
It's dumb, but also it's fun, just kind of like, when they look away and it's like, it's 2 seconds and he's managed to find this disavowed MI6 agent spoiler.
Yeah. Yeah, the movies are crossing over, everyone. So he gets Benji to the opera, and he's all nice tuxedo and stuff, and Benji what the shit is this magic digital book that he has? It's cool, but, like, he has, like, a physical book that when he puts a little thing next to it, it becomes a digital display, and it's like, what?
Yeah, cool. And it's all in black and white as well, because the paper's black and white.
Of course. The future of phones. Well, not really. They've been experimenting with that already, haven't they? No one buys them.
I love this entire sequence.
The opera scene.
Yeah, I love it.
So you think this is better than the one in Quantum, don't you?
Yes, I do. 100%.
Obviously, the, like, chase that follows the whole we are everywhere at the opera is not good in Quantum. But I think the whole, oh god, everyone in this audience could be in Quantum, I think is a lot cooler than anything that happens here. But
okay, I think the plot payoff for Quantum is more interesting.
Yes.
But I just think the mechanics of everything, like, and again, it comes down to, like, the action beats versus the plot beats. And I think everyone chasing each other through the opera, trying to figure out who everyone is. Everyone's a bit confused. No one's sure what's going on. Ethan's chasing down one person, but he also wants to go follow Ilsa, and then meanwhile you've got, like, the security guy also prowling the hallways, and it's so well orchestrated, and it kind of all comes together in this, like, great head where, like, everyone's pointing guns at the same person. And I compare that to, like, Quantum of Solace, when, like, they're running away from the opera at the end, and it goes quiet and the gunshots aren't loud, and he drops the guy off the roof, and I'm just so less interested in the payoff to that.
I think this is a better action scene. I just don't think it's as cool of a scene, and also it coming second is always gonna not reflect well on it. And also, like, so the Syndicate were in the Mission Impossible TV show, but it was just the mob, basically. Like, I think early on they were dealing with international espionage, and then they had budget cuts, and it was like, now the IMF are just going to take down organised crime in America, and they called it the Syndicate. And obviously you're not going to do that now, and they've reimagined them as a clandestine agency. But it's like, you've done this immediately after Bond has reactivated Quantum/Spectre, and it's like, how can you not see that this is going to look like you're aping them?
Well, that's the thing is, I think it is very much like, so Solomon Lane is kind of very similar to Javier Bardem's character in Skyfall in some ways.
less good.
I mean, oh yeah, sure. I mean, Javier Bardem's doing a fucking great performance in that movie, but I think while Sean Harris isn't as good as Javier Bardem, I do think the role of the Syndicate is more interesting than what I've seen James Bond do with its shadowy organisation that's behind everything.
Really? Because I think Solomon is so more ha-ha-ha villain. He has a memorable voice, and I guess he's better than Dominic Green, but other than that...
I mean, yeah, no. Like, in terms of the ranking of, like, Mission Impossible villains, I do think, like... Or if we're ranking all the villains across the series, like, I think the top three are definitely Philip Seymour Hoffman, Javier Bardem, and Mads Mikkelsen. Like, no question. Like, Sean Harris doesn't crack that golden three. I just think that the way they're using a shadowy organisation here with, like, there's the right amount of chaos in this scene where, like, they're pulling so many different strings, and the fact that, like, in the end they still managed to kill the Chancellor of Austria because...
They do.
So that's the thing is, like, they have three people in there ostensibly to assassinate this person. Ethan manages to foil that, but then they still have a backup car bomb in the car.
Yeah.
Make them feel more of a threat than anything that Javier Bardem does in Skyfall, because Skyfall's so much more personal, whereas this feels more indiscriminate and kind of more focused on breaking down the world, I think.
They reveal that Bardem is part of Quantum/Spectre, but, like, he doesn't feel like he is acting on their behalf. He feels like this is his personal thing. And I would say that Quantum as a general concept are the same as the Syndicate, personally, but...
As concept, they are, very much so. I just think, like, at this point, we are 3 movies into Bond, and obviously Spectre's where it all comes to a head in terms of shadow organisations.
Yes.
I just think Mission Impossible got to it quicker, and from everything I've heard of Spectre, is achieving the kind of general sense of, like, this is an organisation that are doing things better than Bond. But I've not seen Spectre.
I'm so scared I'm going to turn around and become a huge Spectre fan after, potentially later today. But as you've said, there's a lot going on here with, like, so this man is probably trying to kill the Chancellor. Is Ilsa trying to kill this man, or is she also trying to kill the Chancellor?
So there's 2 of them trying to kill the Chancellor.
Yeah, no, I know what's actually happening. I'm saying, like,
okay.
Before you know, it's like, oh, is she trying to kill them? Are they trying to kill her? Which one of them? Is it both trying to kill the Chancellor? And, like, Ethan doesn't quite know. Like, he's looking at where she's aiming. He's looking at where the other dude is aiming. There's that third huge dude that he has the big fight with the scaffolding not the gantry, like, going up and down. That's kind of fun. We have a flute gun, which is really fucking dope. We have
the flute gun is so cool.
We have a baton gun from the security guy, and then Ilsa's also got, like, a fun, like, assembly gun. Like, we got 3 cool guns going on here. It's pretty fun. Tom Cruise fights a big European man. Somehow no one hears any of it.
My favourite bit is when he, like, jumps to meet him and they're, like, grappling each other, and then he just stands up and he's, like...
so much bigger than him.
He's so much taller than him. And that's the thing is, I think the movies also that I like Tom Cruise in are the movies that are able to play with his image. And, like, everyone knows that Tom Cruise is short.
Tiny.
And a lot of movies will, like, shoot the female actresses so they look like they're a similar height.
Yep. Fragile male ego, yeah.
Yeah, but this is very much playing with that, where, I mean, yes, he's not on screen with a woman, and I'm sure Rebecca Ferguson would have to be, like, crouching off stage if she was, like, up against him in this scene. But, like, actually having, like, because using his height to make this guy seem so much taller, because I'm sure this guy's probably only, like, 6'1" or something like that. Like, not...
This man could be 5'7", and you would achieve the same effect. Do you know what kind of bothers me about Ethan? His perfectness. I kind of wish he wasn't good at fighting. Like... It's that he does all of this, and then he's also like, I could kick anyone's ass. And it's like, you can't literally be the Uberman.
To be fair, he does get his ass kicked for most of this fight, and he only really wins by, like, knocking him off and impaling him on the top of the set. I
know, but it's just, it feels like one step too far. It's like, you can be good at all this shit, but you can't also be like, there is no one-on-one encounter I could not win. It's like, okay.
Because I don't think he does win this encounter.
I guess he's not like throwing absolute haymakers or anything. But anyway, he does that, and then he makes his pick about who he's gonna. All 3 of them with their sniper rifles out, and him looking from one to the other, and then Ethan, like, clips the Chancellor in the shoulder so that he'll be taken away, and then it also misses her shot, and then Benji gets to the guy in the lighting booth, and then Ilsa kills that dude, and then Benji dives for cover. That's pretty fun. And then they have the little escape scene, and Ethan is a little bit unsure about abseiling down a building, and then when they actually do it, the pole falls down just afterwards, and she stops him falling to his death, which is quite fun. Just hammering home this idea that Ethan is actually not in control of any situation, which I continue to like. And then the car bomb happens, and then Ilsa, like, disappears again, only for them to reunite with Ilsa not long after, and it felt a little bit inelegant to me. Like, I feel they should have remained together in some ways if they're just going to reunite in like less than 5 minutes. But yeah, Ethan tells Benji about the Syndicate and how they've been operating across the globe, and they've been committing all these subtle acts of terrorism as an anti-IMF. They go find Ilsa again, and you know, I said how when they wrote this scene, they didn't know what Ethan was stealing. And I've seen it, and I know what he stole. But even when I was watching it, I was like, why are they here? Like, they're at some facility in Morocco that they think contains Syndicate data. And it kind of does, but it kind of doesn't.
I mean, yeah, so it contains the red box, which is where all the funds for the Syndicate have been gone.
Yes.
But the funds for the Syndicate are blocked by requiring the Prime Minister's biometrics to unlock it. So the Syndicate has set Ethan and Ilsa up to steal it for them so that Ethan can then go to the Prime Minister, unlock it, and then give it to the Syndicate.
Yes.
Incredibly convoluted. I think it just about hangs together.
Yeah, I would say if you like this, you like Metal Gear more than you know you do.
I've never played Metal Gear games.
I know, that's why I'm saying.
Apart from, like, the first 20 minutes of Metal Gear Solid 4 before my girlfriend at the time took the controller off me because I was playing it wrong.
In 20 minutes, you wouldn't have touched the controller. It's all cutscenes, but...
I can't even remember where I got up to in the game. She just got annoyed at me and took the controller from me.
War never changes. I was a bit daydreamy during this whole sequence because I was just like, I'm not entirely sure what's going on yet, but I know they're doing stunt shit. But Ethan gives Benji the opportunity to get out, and he angrily is like, no, I'm a fucking field agent. I signed up for this. Let's do it. And I like that.
I am your friend.
Exactly. Yeah. After he was like, I don't owe him anything. He's like condemned me to this life as a data analyst. It's nice character progression for Benji from guy that sits in the dank basement working on tiny little data stuff to, oh, he's a field agent now, to like, no, I'm a fucking field agent. But he was like not necessarily great at it, and it was like he's going to get himself killed, to like, okay, now it's serious, I want you to not stay. And he's like, no, I want to stay.
This is the most important thing that this movie kind of nails, is this is the team movie more than the other ones, and like having a character like Benji there immediately makes it so much more interesting, because like, and obviously it's it took them ages to figure out who the main team was going to be, and Benji's kind of like the only one who's consistently in the field, and Luther kind of makes a big triumphant return in this movie, but like,
yes, it's so triumphant.
Stop being so mean.
Him and Brant are just like segregated off over in the corner to keep them busy while they bicker with each other until
right. I love it.
Until it's time for them to be back in the movie.
Yep. I just think like Benji's role here is so much, makes the movie, it gives the wrinkle that Bond doesn't have, and it gives the wrinkle that Bourne doesn't have, in that they're interacting with a character who is other than this kind of like big superhuman thing, and isn't the female love interest for the movie. Yeah. And it's why Benji is there in the final set piece as well.
Yes. Simon Pegg might be my favourite thing about Mission Impossible.
I mean, that's completely fair. Like, he's really good in this role.
I just think he gives energy sometimes when, I'm not saying in this one, but just generally, when things have started to sag a bit, he has been a welcome injection of energy and enthusiasm. And humour, which actually works in this film that is otherwise, it's tongue-in-cheek serious, but it is sometimes a bit self-serious. Ilsa is kind of a badass to Solomon, where she's like, look, trust me or kill me, and tosses him the gun, and then he potentially shoots her, but then he turned out he shot his other guard person. But yeah, like, the reason they separate is so that you can have this scene happen in between and be like, look, she's working for the bad guys. But obviously she's not, because she helped him earlier, and it will ultimately be revealed that she's been tasked with infiltrating the Syndicate, and she's just trying to help Ethan without it being clear she's helping Ethan, so she'll keep betraying him, but trying not to kill him. I just think this is a tiny bit sloppy, and they should have stayed together, personally.
You can tell that, thinking on it, you can tell the movie's kind of not sure how long to keep them together, but the only reason it separates them is so that she can do machinations off screen without us knowing what they are, really. Yeah,
it's really fun when they run through all the different hypotheticals of how they're going to pull off the heist, because the heists are such a, like, you have to have one in every Mission Impossible, one big one, and they're going to plot it out ahead of time. And I like that in this one, Did they do this with Ambrose in Mission Impossible 2, where he was like, this is what will happen, and you're like seeing it happen as it happens or whatever, but like
this is what will, but this is, that was very much like, this is what will happen, but they're not doing variations, because this movie is like, Benji will go in there with the mask, and he wears the mask, and then he gets found out because he doesn't walk properly. Like, they
finally gets his mask, but it's not real. Yeah, there's like special cameras that can like track the gait of your walk and stuff like that, and it's just fun to see like, oh, but if we do this, you fail, and like you see Benji getting grabbed and stuff, and I think that's pretty fun. We mentioned Brandt and Luther. I like Brandt's line about, this is the CIA, they're going to kill him, not just, capture him or whatever. It's like, okay, that's good stuff. The CIA are big murderer people. Yeah, and then we already talked about that drawing scene, so I don't need to anymore. So they do their big daring infiltration, which nearly goes off without a hitch, but it also betrays them, steals the red box, and then eludes Ethan in a high-speed motorcycle chase across Morocco. Ethan and Ilsa sort of working in tandem is really cool, where they like both drop in at the same time, and they're like doing the same things with equal capability. Big points for female agency there with Ilsa.
Rebecca Ferguson is really good. Spoilers for female agency, but I think she's really good.
She is really good. I really like this like gaudy oxygen filter for a human being. Like it's like an O2 gauge from a video game, but for an actual human, and it's like huge on his arm. It's quite visually pleasing. I don't know.
I have to imagine like it's injected into like a vein or something, and it's tracking blood oxygen levels.
I have no idea. It's really cool when he jumps down the giant sort of a giant plug hole. It's not really clear what happened at this facility, to be honest, but he jumps down it. This entire underwater sequence had me daydreaming about the beginning of Metal Gear Solid 2. Sorry. Yeah. Maybe Chris McQuarrie should write the Metal Gear movie. Who knows?
But he'll be free in like 2 years' time after he's wrapped on 7 and 8.
The guy that made Skull Island is allegedly making it, but there will never be a Metal Gear movie. So
how would you feel if Tom Cruise played Snake?
Awful. Tom Cruise could never be Snake. I'm not saying Snake is like some like paragon of a character, but like Tom Cruise could not be more wrong for that.
And yet they will try.
Russell Crowe was rumoured for it years ago, but anyway.
Years ago you'd have been good for it.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, we're not making a Metal Gear movie.
Yeah, so like this whole sequence, like the water's there to cool down this thing because it gets very hot, which is why it's underwater. Yes. And like the stuff that is done in camera, because Robert Elswit knows how to shoot a movie, and it's why the car chase after this looks really good as well. Like, he's just very good at doing what he does. But the thing with this is, everything in camera looks great, and it feels great, and it feels like there's a sense of time. But then there's these two fucking huge CGI
arms
just swinging around.
I love that one takes him out a second after he looks nervously at the other one. Like, I think that's a nice bit of physical comedy, but it looks so goofy.
That's the thing, and it's just like, I think it's less interesting because of the reliance on CGI, and this is so much not what Mission Impossible does good.
This is allegedly one take, the entire underwater thing, but they broke it up with by cutting away and everything, but allegedly Cruise did this whole thing in a single take. But then there's like massive sections of CGI, so it's like, did you though?
I mean, we will talk about a thing that is one take that is interrupted by CGI in Fallout, but that one you can actually see the behind the scenes shot, and you're like, oh no, they did do this in one shot. Jesus Christ.
I just don't believe he held his breath for 6 minutes. Most people can barely hold their breath for one, and with a bit of training you can go into the 2, 3, 4 territory, but 6 is getting into like professional diver levels, surely.
Yeah, but the thing is, do you not think that Tom Cruise is insane enough to like spend a year just practicing on how to do it?
He said he did like a load of breathing exercises to learn to do this, and like he would forget to breathe while talking because of them, and it's like, okay, but I still don't believe you held your breath for 6 minutes while swimming around and stuff. Like, it's one thing to just sit there with your breath held, but like they make this big point of it, of like, as he swims he will have less oxygen and stuff. So
I mean, the world record is 22 minutes and 22 seconds.
Okay, never mind, but that's still a long fucking time, 6 minutes.
It is a long time. I know that, like, at the peak of when I was doing kind of like free diving and stuff like that, I could get to about 3 minutes, maybe.
You were doing free diving?
Yeah.
When was this?
Like I was very young. It was when like we used to holiday in like certain places, but I would do things like that. Yes, about 3 minutes was what I would.
Where's the portion of the podcast where it turns out we are the secret agent men? I can't do anything. Just by the way.
I mean, I'm grossly out of shape now, and I definitely can't do it for that long. But I always try if I like go swimming, I try and see how long I can hold my breath for, and I can still about do like 3 or 4 lengths of a pool underwater.
Wow.
So I'm not.
Check you out. Okay, coming soon to the Real World Patreon. Ben and Matt will refilm this underwater scene. I'll rescue you in my underwear. So Ilsa rescues him and then is mostly naked for exec reasons that didn't need to be here, as she stands there in just her underwear and not even a top, because Benji's given her something to change into, and it's like, did we need to see this?
I mean, that's the thing. It's like one shot, and it's like it's really gratuitous. I don't think it breaks the flow of the movie, but it's just the way the camera very lovingly frames her side boob as she gets changed into this.
Yeah.
Whilst the actual plot of the movie's like the only thing is that it like, does she look over her shoulder? Is that why the shot is there? Because she's paying attention to like.
She does, yes, but it's still fucking unnecessary. Like
it is unnecessary. I don't think it like.
He could have given her something to put over the top of her wet clothes or something, or she could have like, I don't know, walked around a corner or something briefly. Like you can achieve all of this in the same way. Like it just that you can't resist going to this well that they keep going to is disappointing.
It is
when this is otherwise the best female character that this franchise has delivered to date.
But also, Rebecca Ferguson's hot, so I'm not going to complain too much.
Of course she... Like, this is the thing. Like, I'm not complaining, but I'm also complaining.
You're not complaining that you get to see it. However, you're disappointed that the movie feels the need to do it in a scene which is entirely pointless.
It's not the time and the place for it. It serves no purpose.
But then she puts a defibrillator to Benji's back and runs away.
Yes, she betrays them, and I really like Ethan being super fucked up from being oxygen deprived and like falling off the car and be like, Benji, why are you here? And Benji's been like, are you okay? And
why are you driving the car? And just like he isn't driving the car as well as he probably should be doing.
And you got Rebecca Ferguson now in biking leathers, and it's like, okay, also hot. Her fucking all the dudes up.
She runs away, runs into the syndicate, who give her bike leathers and a bike. Mm-hmm. She knocks them all off their bike, and then the big car chase of the movie starts.
Yes.
Right, so Bourne is king of car chases, I think. We're agreed on that.
Yes.
Like, Bourne does the best car chases, apart from that one in Bourne Legacy, but...
Doesn't count.
Where would this stand? Is this... I think this is like a solid top 5 car chase we've had in these movies so far.
The camera work is incredibly good. Like, the cameras that are attached to the side of the car or the front of the cars and stuff like that are really good. It's one of the better ones, for sure. The
start of Quantum of Solace, I actually think that car chase is really good.
Yeah, I think this is better than that.
This is better than that. Yeah. And then, like, Bond hasn't really had, like, an excellent car chase, really.
No. Is this all leading to us doing a listicle of all of the things in these 3 franchises at the end?
No, this is just me kind of, like, stretching the comparative stuff, because I think because this movie is so fundamentally kind of a very basic spy story that is pulling from an awful lot of stuff that this franchise has done, because this car chase is incredibly similar in terms of location and how it's set up to the car chase that is in the first chunk of Mission Impossible 2.
Yes. In terms of also the motorbike chase at the end of Mission Impossible 2.
Yes, yeah, it's very similar.
Unfortunately, Ilsa and Ethan don't fling their motorbikes at each other and fall 50 feet and survive. But, you know, no movie is perfect.
No movie is perfect.
Brandt and Luther are bickering in their vehicle, and they, like, pass them by, and it's like, oh, hey. Luther is all like, I could catch him, you're driving badly, and stuff like that. It's just like, what the fuck is happening with these two?
It's an odd couple relationship.
They promised Renner the keys to the kingdom, and he's in a fucking bickering marriage story.
Is Renner better in this or in Age of Ultron, which is like literally about 2-3 months old at this point?
Age of Ultron.
He's better in Age of Ultron.
I don't think he's overwhelmingly good as Brandt, to be honest. I think Brandt is a fine character, but his uselessness makes itself more apparent every scene almost.
I think this is a better use of him than Hawkeye.
I guess.
If that makes sense, I think like
he does pretend to murder that guy with his bow. Be like, oh, look what happened. Oh, I don't know how it happened. Blah 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 blah. And then does weird jogging, which he doesn't do here. But hey, whatever. He tried to kill his ex-wife. So,
am I laughing?
I don't know, you're a monster. The fucking car flips. My God. Stop doing these stunts. Where he's like, are you wearing your seatbelt? And he's like, are you asking me that now? And then he just slams the brakes on and they do 4 backward rotations in a car. And then they're just okay, kind of. Obviously they have to crawl out from it, but Jesus, stop it.
I like the bit afterwards where the guy on the motorcycle comes to like finish the job because he's like watched them do this insane stunt, and then Luther and Brad just bump into him.
Just fuck him up. For a second I was like, is that Ilsa? I was like, no, that's not Ilsa.
No, then
because that person is dead now.
Yeah, because then they steal, or...
And then he gets on the bike.
Hunt steals the bike.
And then they do the Casino Royale thing, where...
Yeah.
Yes, high-speed chase, extreme close-up of woman's face, swerve to avoid, fuck yourself up, and then Ilsa gets away. It's like, come on, this is shameless at this point that you are stealing from these things. So
I like it.
I know you do. Solomon continues to outwit Ethan. He captures Benji and demands he bring in the data, which can only be unlocked by the Prime Minister, as you said. So we see Ilsa meeting with her MI6 boss, Atlee, who is basically like, fuck Ethan, kill that dude. Which, you know, M was pretty ruthless, but I don't know if she would go this far. Or maybe she would. No, she was very like, I did my job, disavowed him, I'd do it again. And I like that he's like secretly deleting the files while they're having their meeting. That's kind of a fun beat when you learn that Atlee is trying to cover for himself in a bit. So Brant at this point is like, no, you're being stupid. You just want revenge against Solomon. And Ethan's like, no, it's because this guy's so dangerous. And it's like, it kind of sounds like you just want revenge against this dude that's outwitting you, man. And they are playing at this thread of like, Brant doesn't trust Ethan anymore and he's gonna rat on him to Alec Baldwin. And he does, but it seems like it was like with Ethan's knowledge, so I don't know if they're doing this for show or if this is a genuine argument.
Like, is this scene done for show, or is it them having an argument about Ethan has a stupid plan, and Brant's just like, this is a stupid plan, but I'll go along with it because.
But like, who would it be for show for? Like,
I think it is Benji? Just like they're showing the parts of the argument that make it seem like Brant isn't on board, but ultimately he decides to go along with it. But he's just like, at any point that this goes wrong, I will just straight up spoil the plan for you.
Yeah. Lane admitting that he is constantly lying to Ilsa so that she will lie to Ethan, and he basically knows that she's sort of helping him. I don't know, some of this makes it look like he's kind of stupid, but maybe he's not, or I don't know. She's definitely not, though, because I like the scene where she spots the 4 of them surrounding her at that station in London, maybe? Where they're on all 4 sides of her. That's good stuff.
Yes.
And I really like when she's like, she says the line about how Ethan's a gambler, so maybe he'll hand over the red box regardless. And Benji's like, yeah, that could happen. And it's like, yeah, that is definitely 1000% a thing that Ethan would do. We literally saw it last movie, where he was like, no, we have to give them the real codes.
Yeah, and the CIA are just like, you literally gave codes to terrorists.
He did. I like that as she understands who he is immediately, because they're the same. For as much as I think Solomon is a very cartoon villain, I do like that he keeps getting Ethan to do his work for him. Like, he stole the red box for him. Because that was the thing. We assumed this was like a syndicate facility where they were keeping their own files. But instead it is revealed that, like, this is an MI6 facility or something. And the syndicate want those files. Because it is very like, why would you keep a paper trail on your own organisation? Because it's like, that's what they think it is. It's like, it's all the members of, it's like a reverse knock list almost of like syndicate members and everything. But instead it's like Metal Gear. You unlock the bomb for them. Seriously. Christopher McQuarrie, go write Metal Gear instead. You'll love it. Brant rats on Hunley, ostensibly, and then we get this scene with a fake Prime Minister who did not play the Prime Minister in The Loop. But, yeah. And they reveal the Syndicate was a rejected MI6 project that was basically like Dreadstone, almost like operate without any red tape. British Prime Minister becomes judge, jury, executioner. And they've got like £2 billion of funding secretly set up, but the PM rejected it, and Atlee went ahead with it anyway, and then Solomon went rogue. They're a rogue nation, everyone. And that's kind of a fun reveal, I think. Then it's kind of ruined by Hunley doing a little monologue about how Ethan is destiny incarnate and he is pointed at you, and it's like, oh god, stop it. Bourne is the like mythic one. You can't do this with Ethan Hunt.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't. He's just a crazy person.
I do like that, like, Mission Impossible is obviously very well known for its masks.
Yes.
But
we haven't had one in a while, though. Like a real
That's the thing, is they're very restrained with them, and Ghost Protocol was even more restrained in that the only person that used a mask in that movie is the villain when he's escaping, whereas this movie has two, one of which is in a fantasy sequence, and then, like, the most sustained mask use since Ethan dressed up as Phillips Matt Hoffman.
And this time, it is a different actor, and then after they take it off, it's Cruise, right? Versus earlier when it was very clearly Tom Cruise in prosthetics, right?
Yes.
Yes. Can't decide if that makes it better or worse, but hey. And then the groggy Prime Minister and, the real Attlee showing up and all of that stuff, and is it a truth serum, this stuff they're
I think
shooting
it's
them with?
just
Or
like
is it
a
just
thing that makes them groggy.
Yeah.
But, like, and obviously, like, if you're groggy, you're probably a bit more truthful than...
Yeah. Fun, lower comedy beat. So Ethan goes all in against Lane by memorising all of the bank numbers in the red box.
Yeah, he is superhuman.
Yes, and then he destroys it, and he's like, hey, here's $50 million as proof I've done this. If you want any of this money, I have to be alive, and I won't do it for you unless you let Benji go. And then he lures Lane into a literal trap. So
Love this sequence in the restaurant outside of...
Oh, you mean the thing from Sherlock where Moriarty strapped bombs to people and had them read his script using an earpiece? Yeah, I loved that when I saw that 2 years earlier. If they did one copying scene, I would go easy on them. But that there's like 4 different things they are directly copying is kind of shitty. And it's in England, and they were going to have Benedict Cumberbatch be the villain. Like, come on.
Yeah, but Sherlock's bad.
You're not baiting me into this.
Which episode of Sherlock is that happens in? I genuinely forgot that happened in Sherlock.
Season 1, episode 3. It's before you physically seen... Well, you see Moriarty, but he's pretending to be Molly's gay boyfriend.
Yes, okay. So when Sherlock was good.
I mean, 4 is not as good as the first 3, but it's still good. Anyway, you won't bait me into 2 arguments about TV shows in a week. Ethan does, in fact, gamble, exactly as Ilsa said he would, and gives Lane $50 million. I guess they can get that back at a later date, but he did directly fund a terrorist, so the CIA's argument is all the stronger. And yeah, he forces him into this little standoff. I think Simon Pegg is really good in this scene. I think Sean Harris is not very good in this scene. He does this little eye twitch, like a second before he turns the countdown off, that I think is a bit hammy. But Simon Pegg, very good, as he has to look him in the eye and say all that stuff.
The thing that I love is that Simon Pegg is so monotone when he's doing the lines that Lane is making him say, but then the moment like he gets some freedom to like actually say his mind, he's immediately got so much more personality. I just like, it's a small thing, but it's just a nice...
Turns out Simon Pegg is actually a good actor as well as being very funny. I mean, we've known this for a long time, but I feel he gets so many of these roles where they've cast him because he's funny, and then about once per movie he will be like, oh, I can't act, by the way. And this is kind of your scene here. Ethan makes himself a human shield to protect Ilsa because Lane is like, kill her, spare Hunt or whatever, because he needs the money. And then they go through a little chase through the, like, is it the Tower of London?
Or London Dungeon? Around the Tower of London. Like, I was trying to figure out, like, where exactly they were, but I've not spent a lot of time over that way. Again, next movie, I will be able to... we could literally record the podcast walking around where they did it, because I know it so well.
I like the in the window, out the window bit they do briefly, but... most of this chase, I think, is pretty uninspired, and it just...
This is one of my favourite things about this movie, and obviously, like, it's not as well plotted, but just the movie starts to contract on itself, and each progressive action sequence, like, you start with the big one in the trailers, and then it's this kind of, like, over-involved set piece in the opera, and then it's the underwater set piece, and it's the car chase, and then ultimately it comes down to 2 parallel fight scenes kind of happening at odds to each other against one-on-one fights, and I just really like where there's no spectacle, it's just... the movie is kind of like just drilling down to this, and Fallout has a big spectacle kind of bit just before the denouement. I just enjoyed that this movie just contracts and contracts and contracts until it is just ultimately Hunt and Lane and Ilsa and the Bone Doctor.
You can call that a fight scene, they never touch each other. And then they slide little glass panels around him and make a little box and gas him. And a pretty villainous shot. where the four of them are surrounding him and smirking as he gets gassed and is like...
And he unloads an entire clip into the glass as well.
He does. Luther and Brandt were like getting this ready. Like you could see them doing stuff with handles and drills and stuff, and it's like, oh, they were making these panels, I guess. And yeah, he lured him into it. And I accidentally learned that Sean Harris will return. So we'll see where that goes, because in a pretty weird shot, like, you know, obviously Ethan and Ilsa get their little goodbye, but then the final scene does not feature Ethan. It is 6 months later, and Hundley is testifying that the IMF are in fact necessary. And they do this, you know, they claim that the whole shutdown was a ruse to draw out the syndicate, and I don't know if Brandt has the authority to do this, or if this just happened off screen and he's just being flippant, but I guess Hundley is now the new IMF secretary.
No, I think that they convinced the Senate hearing to give...
Oh, so like in between the last line we see inside of the hearing and them coming out, they make him the secretary.
Yeah. I think that's the kind of implication, is that he comes in there to say, like, this was a joint task force between the CIA and IMF to bring up the syndicate, and then they kind of pitch the Senate hearing on, I should become the new head of the IMF.
Because then this fucker will say things.
And then we get to meet the new head of the CIA in the next movie.
I assume the IMF job pays better.
I mean, who knows?
Who knows? It's kind of weird to leave it where you don't know what happened to Lane, because like they're eluding the police and you don't get any exposition about what happened. It's just like, here it is 6 months later and he's head of the CIA, the IMF now, so end of movie.
Good movie.
This is the definition of a 2.5, 3-star movie, Ben.
Oh my god.
It's so middle of the lane. Like,
oh my god, you're a monster.
No,
you're a monster.
It's not bad, but there's nothing remarkable about it whatsoever. Nothing. Everything it's doing is stealing from something else, and there's a couple of pretty wild stunts. But I've seen pretty wild stunts in every one of these movies.
Oh, you're a monster.
It's perfectly fine.
3 stars.
But your argument that Ghost Protocol is a 5 and then drops to a 3, whereas this is a 4 throughout. No. This is a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10, like 2.5, 3 out of 5 movie. Like, it's nothing. It did not need to exist. And I guess, like, in real world time, where there hasn't been one in a few years, you'd be like, oh, cool, another one. But watching it less than a week after the last one, I'm like, this didn't need to exist. This is kind of nothing.
Right, fine.
I know you think I'm a monster, but search your feelings. You know it to be true.
We know Mission Impossible Fallout's going to have to do a lot of work.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, Mission Impossible Fallout's great.
I hear this, but I'm looking at what McQuarrie made, and I'm doubtful now.
My hope is, so Mike Thomas gave this movie a 3, much like you did on Letterboxd, but he's given the next one a 4.5, so I'm hopeful.
I mean, I'm hoping Big Geralt is here to fix everything. And the absence of Renner, you get half a star for removing Jeremy Renner from a movie. Jason Bourne must be at least half a star better than the Bourne legacy. Villain watch. Let's do our responsibilities. Solomon Lane, Sean Harris. As I said, I think he's a bit more haha. I don't think he's phenomenally memorable in the way that those names we mentioned earlier are, but more so than Nyquist and Dominic Green. Nyquist and Almeric, let's go with that, the actor names. I like that he does keep outfoxing them. It's kind of what I hoped we would get with Nyquist in Ghost Protocol, and it kind of stopped after the first time he did it. He's got a very distinct voice, does Sean Harris?
He does. I think he's top of the middle pile based purely on this movie alone.
I suppose.
But I also think that I might raise him up to top.
I feel this podcast series has been a handful of really good villains, and then everyone else is incredibly forgettable and meh. So all you've got to do is be in any way memorable, and yeah, you rise to the top of the middle. Carl Urban is in serious contention for one of the best... No, not the top, but, you know, that his role where he doesn't speak is one of the better ones. It's quite an indictment on the quality of villains.
Yeah, we have the Golden Three, and I don't think we're going to change our minds. I don't think that you've got any particular, like, strong feelings on Christoph Waltz.
It's being Christoph Waltz.
And you've seen the King Christoph Waltz performance now as well.
I have. You know, we invented this feature for the Marvel podcast because everyone says that all the Marvel villains fucking suck. I would argue they have a better at-bat ratio than these three franchises.
To be fair, one of these franchises isn't going for making villains, is
No,
I think
true.
an important caveat.
Bond by itself has a better shot at it, where I think they've gotten it right all but one time. But yeah, there are some shitty fucking villains across all of these movies. I do like that Sean Harris, he only signed on to the movie because of a scene that they ended up cutting. And he also said he would only do it if his character died so that he didn't have to do a sequel. And then he's coming back for a sequel. And they didn't tell him until pretty late on. So that's fun. Yannick the Bone Doctor Vinter is
I mean, what is that?
It's nothing, is what it is. And then I don't know if you want to call Alan Hunley a villain.
No.
It's the Joan Allen role. It's the Lawrence Fishburne role. Like
The person who plays a bit too much by the rules.
yeah, it's the policeman in Ghost Protocol role. Like,
Yeah.
we're heroes, but we're at odds, but we'll end up on the same side. How did Tom survive has gotten interesting again, because he sustained 6 injuries while making this movie. He dangled off a fucking plane
Yep.
eight times at up to 5,000 feet. He had to have special lenses made to cover his whole eyes so he could keep them open. I feel they did that with Daniel Craig in Quantum, or maybe it was the first Mission Impossible. I feel I've said that on this show before, that they had special lenses made so he could keep his eyes open. I don't know who it was about, but someone's done it. That's kind of fucking insane. He dangled off the side of this plane. Like, I think he said he did it because he wanted to top the Burj Khalifa scene.
I don't think this tops it, because I don't think this...
it
it's
doesn't.
potentially more insane that he dangles off a plane that is taking off.
Yes.
But it's not as good a spectacle as...
And that camera work of, like, the camera moving out with him and stuff like that is incredible.
I mean, that's it. I still think that Ghost Protocol is the best directed movie that we've had so far, apart from maybe Skyfall.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it's Ghost Protocol and Skyfall.
In
two
terms
best.
of, like, a director having a very clear style and vision, and you can tell that this person made this, yeah.
Whereas I think Chris McQuarrie, like, this is, his second movie? His third movie? It's relatively early on in his directing career. He did Way of the Gun in 2000, Jack Reacher, so this is his third movie.
Yeah.
I feel like he actually manages to figure out a style by the time you get to Fallout.
Did he allegedly do some directing on Valkyrie, or do I have that wrong?
Probably did do some direction on Valkyrie,
Yeah.
judging by the fact that renowned paedophile Bryan Singer and sex abuser would routinely just not show up to set.
Yes, his favourite trick. His second favourite trick. So, jeez. The underwater sequence, as I said, allegedly one take, allegedly 6 minutes of breath holding. They ruin it with CGI. Like, if you'd have actually shown me a sustained 6-minute scene of Tom Cruise swimming without a camera cut, I would have been like, holy fucking shit. As it is, it just looks like the fakest thing he's done so far.
Yeah, I think
maybe.
that's the downside, and we will get to discuss the behind-the-scenes shot in Fallout of one of my favourite action
I'm very
sequences.
curious about this. You've been talking about this since we started, and it's like why we have this feature, I think.
It's so...
Did he actually nearly die in Fallout?
I mean, he broke his ankle, that's well known.
Okay. And finally, all the driving stunts were Tom and Simon. Simon was at the mercy of Tom Cruise as well. Female agency, this one's going to be interesting because Rebecca Ferguson is giving a very good performance. This character is undoubtedly a total badass, and I'm glad she's coming back. However, gratuitous butt action, gratuitous side boob action, and there are 3 women in this movie who speak, and one of them is a CIA polygraph detector person, and one of them is a lady who dies in a record store. And it's like, you do see this sometimes, and I do think Bourne does it as well, so I'm not going to be completely heavy on them, but like, in order to have one good female performance, they basically are like, but there can't be any others. We have room to craft one well-made woman, but that means we don't have time for there to be more women in the movie. I don't know if they'd had Paula Patton and Maggie Q come back, would they have also had Rebecca Ferguson?
Probably not.
Maybe not. But in a world where you have a way to get at least one of those two on Ethan's team, in addition to Rebecca Ferguson, and like, no offense to Maggie Q, but I would rather Paula Patton return.
Yes.
She had a character arc at least. I might praise them more, but like, this being like such a male-dominated movie, but then with this big female performance, still work to do.
It's similar to Casino Royale. It's similar to Skyfall in that, like, really, there are other female characters in the movie, but they're oft or something negative happens to them. And like obviously,
but a complete absence of them is also pretty bad.
Sure, but like, how many female characters were there in Skyfall?
Off the top of my head, M. Moneypenny. Her name. lady from the Chimera. Why do I remember the name of the fucking boat? Lady on the boat.
It's
lady
Severin.
in Severin. Lady he bangs in Turkey. Maybe.
Helen McQuarrie is the MP as well.
Yes. The inquest that had a woman there.
I think that's it.
Maybe, but that's already more.
That is true. And I will say again, God, I'm putting so much fucking hope on you liking Fallout. Fallout has multiple female characters who get to do things.
Who get to do things? Look, Rebecca Ferguson's great.
Yeah.
I'm being hypercritical because I think you would agree that cinema in general needs to do better. Or
absolutely.
This genre.
But I think I'm coming at a point where it's just like the fact that one of the biggest action franchises in the world has, for its sixth movie, managed to find a female co-star who is going to be sustained across multiple movies at this point, in that she is back for Mission Impossible 7 as well. Like, this isn't...
Oh, wow.
This is, like, they've actually figured out, like, a character who's interesting.
But not 8?
I presume everyone who signed on for 7 is signed on for 8 as well, unless it's a huge fucking spoiler that some of them aren't coming back for 8.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Are they going to film them at the same time?
Yeah, they're filming them back to back. Obviously, the filming has been delayed because of Corona as well. So,
of course.
But we have Rebecca Ferguson, Vanessa Kirby's coming back, Hayley Atwell, Pom Lateef for Mission Impossible 7 and 8. There's more female characters in.
Michelle Monaghan.
She's in the next one.
I know. I wish I didn't know, but I do know. Okay, well, look, I am incredibly interested in Fallout because it's not just you, it's not just Mike. I have heard across the board that Fallout was, like, the most shockingly good film of that year.
Like, in terms of an action movie, in terms of, like, when you're coming to it, it's just like, this is a movie that is done almost entirely practical. It steers away from, like, what Fast and Furious and maybe it's just kind of, like, people just so starved for the kind of movie that Fallout is. But Fallout is just, everyone seems like they're on the same playing field in terms of, like, doing what they want to do. And it looks great, it feels great, it's got a sense of style.
Well, you said for an action movie, but, like, for an action movie to be talked about at all in the, like, films of the year standing, I think is kind of rare. Like, I mean, obviously there are people that are like, Fast and Furious is the best movie of the year whenever those come out, but general audiences, film critics being like, oh, Fallout was one of the best movies of the year. It's like, oh, wow, okay. Yeah, I'm interested, but I'm not enamoured with Chris McQuarrie so far. Speaking of not being enamoured, Spectre is up next, and I have spent every day since that movie came out being like, that movie is garbage and an affront to Skyfall. And as we've done this podcast, I've started to think, maybe it's okay. And I'm really scared when you next hear my voice, I'm going to be like, I think I like Spectre. So I think you're going to quite like Spectre, but we'll see what happens.
Well, just because of my, like, proclivities towards...
Yes. Oh, we use the same word. Yeah, so that's next week. In the meantime, go to entertherealworld.com. Ben has some things he can plug, because he's looking at an insane schedule that predicts what's coming out, instead of me, who just is like, I don't know, episodes.
So what? So Flipping the Pig's been out twice this week, as every week they're wrapping up an episode 60 with old content, is that correct?
Yes. 60 they recorded, yes.
And then they will be getting new episodes at the start of June, which is a long time from now. Superhero Pantheon have just done their Punisher triple bill, I believe, and will be following up with a Ghost Rider double bill this week, so...
Oh, God. That barrel will take a good scraping, won't it?
And then Matt and I don't know, like, we're wrapping this up, and then we're going to move on to something new afterwards.
I think we've already said what it is, but we'll be clandestine about it. Yes, new things coming from us, and then hopefully a tiny break. Well, probably a break behind the scenes, but in terms of content on the site, you will never not hear our voices once a week. So, Spectre, next week. We might even go watch it now. We might even record the episode today. Who knows? But for now, thank you, Ben. This podcast, as always, as we've always said, will self-destruct in 5 seconds. But this time, we're going to get gassed.
The first couple episodes.
No, I'm not going to do that. And this time, we're going to get gassed because the Syndicate took over this one. So, bye forever, everyone.
Secret agent man.